Okay, welcome to Administrative Law, the third installment of our lectures for constitutional law review. For administrative law, I will be using partly some of the concepts elaborated by Professor Cecilio Duca, a professor of the University of Makati, UMac, and also a renowned author of so many law books no, in political law, among others. One of my favorites is this one, Constitutional Law 1. Uh, um, it's, a, it's a good book for first year law students as well as yung mga interested on political law. You could also make reference to this in your review classes. Ano? For this discussion, we try to understand that the presumption or the premise here is that you have already read and have mastered the basic concepts and jurisprudence in administrative law because this is only review. Okay, so the first thing we have to understand here is on the matter of the definition of what administrative law is. By general definition, administrative law deals with the exercise of power of the executive department in the making of rules and decisions of questions affecting private rights. We recall that we emphasize in political law one that of the three branches of government, it is the executive department that exercises the function of the execution of laws. Though in the execution of laws, it exercises in part some of the powers that could have been entrusted to the judiciary or um, Congress no, by way of valid delegations. That's why in the definition of being found, the administrative law is a branch of modern law under which the executive department of the government acting as a quasi-legislative or quasi-judicial capacity interferes with the conduct of the individual for the purpose of promoting the well-being of the community as under laws regulating public interest, professions, trade, calling, rates, prices, laws for the protection of public health and safety and the promotion of convenience. So this practically talks about the power of the executive department and the power of the executive department to execute laws for the public welfare, exercising its built-in powers as well as the powers delegated to it by law through the exercise of quasi-judicial and quasi-legislative power in the regulation of private acts. That's why this definition of pound coincides with the general definition of administrative law on the exercise of executive power in regulation or control of private rights, the exercise of rights of the people. Ano. So, what are these powers and how are they exercised? They are exercised through what we recognize as administrative agencies. These are organs of the government other than the court or the Congress that perform quasi-judicial or quasi-legislative functions. So these are offices under the executive department, of course. Now, what is the purpose for the exercise of these administrative powers of these administrative agencies? It is this delegation of powers recognizes the complexity of modern life, so much so that there is a need, for example, for Congress to delegate to experts in the field matters involving specialized laws in the crafting of implementing rules and regulations of existing legislation, and for the judiciary to navigate the arbitration or adjudication of contentions or controversies in the exercise or execution of laws. No? So, according to jurisprudence, um, accordingly, with the growing complexity of modern life, the multiplication of the subjects of governmental regulation, and the increased difficulty in administering the laws, there is a constantly growing tendency towards the delegation of the greater powers of Congress or of the courts. For example, ang sinasabi ni Professor Duca nga, for example, yung data privacy. Well, we all know that there is the right to privacy in Article 3, Section 2, and also in the right to correspondence and communications. However, it gained more ground in RA 10173 and RA 10175, the Data Privacy Act and the Anti-Cybercrime Law, which now recognized the proliferation of data or the abuse of data, also the possibility of abuse because of the greater accessibility to data with the advent of the use of information technology. So right now, it is the National Privacy Commission, the ICT, the NTC, that would help us regulate the use of data or information responsibly, no, among citizens and by the state. No? So this is through those agencies, the NTC, the DICT, the National Privacy Commission, among others. No? Now, how do you determine if an agency is performing administrative functions? No, well, this pertains to um, um, the exercise of regulatory and compliance functions. No, a government agency is said to be an administrative agency if it primarily regulates, although it exercises adjudicatory powers like the LTFRB, the Human Settlement Adjudication Commission, the National Privacy Commission. And of course, in the exercise of its administrative powers, such agencies perform quasi-judicial powers in the crafting of implementing rules and regulations. No? They prescribe the details for legislation. Okay? That's permissible delegation. Now, where do administrative laws come from? By the Constitution, by statute, and by executive orders. For the Constitution, these administrative agencies are created in the fundamental law. For example, the COMELEC, the Civil Service, the Commission on Human Rights, and the Office of the Ombudsman. By law, we have the Commission on Higher Education, the National Labor Relations Commission, the Human Settlements Adjudication Commission, among others, the National Privacy Commission, and so many others that are created by law. No? We also have the executive orders emanating directly from the president by the creation of special commissions. No? Like remember, in one case, we have the Philippine Truth Commission, for example. No? But though the constitutionality of the same was questioned. No? So the origin of administrative bodies are law, be it constitutional law, statutory law, or laws from the form of executive orders. No? So these are exercises. These are administrative agencies exercise administrative power. What is administrative power? It is concerned with the work of applying policies and enforcing orders as determined by proper governmental organs. It enables the president to fix a uniform standard of administrative efficiency and check the official conduct of his agents. To this end, he can issue administrative orders, rules, and regulations. So they apply policies and enforce orders through these administrative agencies. No? But these are lodged with the executive department. No? Well, you remember also the concept of qualified political agencies, that when the president acts through these agencies under him, it is as if he is the one who directs the actions themselves, although they are actually directed by the secretaries of these different agencies or the heads of these offices. It's a concept of qualified political agency, if you recall. So, what are the powers of these administrative agencies? The powers of these administrative agencies come in the form of being discretionary or ministerial if you are referring to the degree of subjective choice. If you are referring to their nature, they may be quasi-legislative, quasi-judicial, determinative, and investigatory. Okay. So first, you have to distinguish between discretionary and ministerial acts. When you speak of discretionary acts, there is discretion when applied to public functionaries means a power or right conferred upon them by law of acting officially under certain circumstances according to the dictates of their own judgments and conscience, uncontrolled by the judgments and conscience of others. Meaning, discretionary acts are acts which depend on the volition or control of the executing agency. This could be manifested also in the form of quasi-judicial functions, meaning the the opportunity, the right to execute or exercise such laws must be tandemed or coupled with the discretion or um, capacity to discern or decide by the agency itself. Unlike ministerial powers are those powers which in which the executing agency does not have any discretion but just to perform it blindly. They cannot make use of their own personal or independent judgment in determining whether or not to enforce or execute the law. So a purely ministerial act is a duty is one which an officer or tribunal performs in a given state of facts in a prescribed manner in obedience to the mandate of legal authority without regard to or the exercise of their own judgment upon the propriety or impropriety of the acts done. Um, so you have this in the case of Esperidion versus CA, distinguishing a ministerial and discretionary act. No, the distinction between a ministerial and discretionary act is well delineated. A purely ministerial act or duty is one which an officer or tribunal performs in a given state of facts in a prescribed manner in obedience to the mandate of legal authority without regard to the exercise of his own judgment upon the propriety or impropriety of the act done. If the law imposes a duty upon the public officer and gives him the right to decide how when the duty shall be performed, such duty is discretionary or ministerial. The duty is ministerial only when the discharge of the same requires neither the exercise of official discretion or judgment. That's Esperidion versus CA, a 2006 case. So we proceed with this quasi-legislative power as opposed to quasi-judicial power on the next video.